is Victoria Brockley. I'm an employment partner at Laytons ETL. I recently gave a presentation about artificial intelligence for my employer client, which is summarised in this video. Artificial intelligence, AI, refers to computer systems which are capable of performing complex tasks which historically only humans could do. This can include perception, learning and reasoning. It's basically teaching machines to think and make decisions as humans. It's a fast-growing industry and the UK AI market is valued in the region of £20 billion, but it's expected to reach over £800 billion within the next 10 years or so. We all use AI in our private lives with face recognition ID, digital voice assistants and recommendations made by media streaming platforms. Businesses are now regularly using AI too. It's reported that at least 1 in 6 UK organisations have embraced at least one form of AI technology significantly within their businesses. To date, businesses have used AI to remove repetitive tasks, manage data inaccuracies and perform high-volume scalable function checks such as AML and KYC documentation. However, the big change in the last year or so has been the acceleration of AI technology use in the actual production of content. For example, numerous legal articles online now reference the use of ChatGPT for providing the content of the article. HR managers need to quickly get up to speed with considering how much AI might be acceptable in documents produced under their company brand, for example in presentations to customers and published documents, and I'm going to come back to that point shortly. From an HR management perspective, there are a number of uses for AI. AI can commonly be used in recruiting and hiring, such as creating job descriptions via ChatGPT in a matter of seconds, which may have previously taken an HR manager a morning to pull together all the requirements for the role. AI can also be used by HR for onboarding and coaching, such as having a chatbot produce content and direct employees to particular policies such as learning and development. HR can involve AI with compensation and reward management, with chatbots providing benchmarking, pulling together data sets for compensation consideration. Performance management carried out by HR can be assisted by AI gathering performance data. For example, a sales manager can have every single task of their role reviewed in detail, how many calls, emails and meetings made each month. Data can be quickly gathered. This AI-generated data can then also be used by HR when considering selection criteria for redundancy. The AI software can even produce the criteria that are used, as well as the data that is considered. It's clear, therefore, that the robots can definitely help and guide HR in a way that will cut down workload and improve what can be called efficiency. However, the use of AI can also pose a risk for the HR manager solely relying on the AI technology. In the examples I've just cited, a job description produced by AI, for example, may actually exclude ethnic groups if a particular academic institutions are listed as a requirement for the role. There can be risks on relying on AI for onboarding and coaching. In the example of health and safety onboarding, I don't believe that a business would be wise to outsource such an important area to technology without human involvement, because the consequences for health and safety breaches can be very serious and attract criminal sanctions for employers in breach. The gathering of employee performance data by AI does not take into account those employees with disabilities. For example, an AI productivity review may consider a disabled person only attending 3 shifts a week as being a poor performer, when in fact the individual's performance in those 3 shifts may be excellent, but they just only work 3 shifts because of their disability. AI criteria isn't transparent, and employers need transparency to stave off allegations of discrimination. The risks, therefore, for HR using and relying on AI are numerous. There can be inbuilt bias based on algorithms from historical data. There's a case involving an employer who used AI for automated CV screenings. The AI technology had identified that male traits were preferable and thus removed all CVs with any female references from the selection process altogether. Some AI face recognition software can fail to recognise particular ethnic groups, and the recent Employment Tribunal claim against Uber has, quite rightly, held this to be discriminatory. In this regard, claims can be brought not only for discrimination but also unfair dismissal. Section 98 of the Employment Rights Act, which deals with unfair dismissal, states in subsection 4 that the employer has to have, in all circumstances, acted reasonably. The question is therefore whether relying on AI to make a decision about a dismissal is actually reasonable. I would suggest it's arguably unreasonable. Well, it certainly creates doubt. There are also risks for HR to consider with AI use under the General Data Protection Regulations. There is a requirement for employers to clearly set out when AI software is used for the processing of personal data, and data protection impact statements should be used. AI systems often require access to personal data, and if this is mishandled, it can lead to a privacy breach. I feel also that the HR managers need to be honest as to whether they actually have the personal technical expertise to use the AI technology, and they should be trained on how to use it correctly. It's an obvious point, but an important one. AI lacks human insight, and HR need to be mindful of over-relying on this technology, which can miss the opportunities of human insight. There can also be ethical concerns as to the breakdown of trust and confidence if HR are not adopting AI fairly or reasonably. From an employment law perspective, there is currently no overreaching legislation or regulatory body dealing with AI. A patchwork of laws apply. We use the Employment Rights Act for any claim relating to procedures and termination, the Equality Act for discrimination-related claims, the Human Rights Act for claims related to rights of autonomy and privacy, and the General Data Protection legislation relating to the right to object to automated individual decision-making. Common law can also apply, for example, relating to the mutuality of obligation. A 2023 white paper looking at how best to approach AI regulation set out a framework of 5 key principles: safety, security and robustness, appropriate transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability and governance, and contestability and redress. I would suggest that those 5 principles are actually key to good employment law practice. And finally, in relation to HR's management of the employee who is using AI to complete their role, presentation and documents, etc., do we laud and reward that employee for producing their work efficiently or discipline them for cheating? I would suggest that each business needs to carefully consider this question, and, given the lightning speed in which this technology is advancing, that question needs to be addressed fairly quickly. The answer will undoubtedly vary from business to business. The starting point for all businesses considering this question and using AI is to adapt an AI policy as part of their employer handbook. The policy should be clear about who is responsible for the policy and who it applies to. An AI policy should be regularly updated. I would suggest every quarter for the time being as the technology beds in. The policy will be business dependent, but it should explain a number of key points. What AI is used in the business? I would suggest an annex of the applications which are permitted and which are not permitted. It should explain the permitted use and guidelines for the use, particularly so that no IP rights are infringed and it's used ethically and responsibly. The policy should set out how AI use is monitored, what the record keeping and GDPR policies are which overlap. The AI policy must also explain what will happen if the policy is breached. This is usually where the disciplinary procedures apply. As I said, it's going to be essential for HR to ensure that they regularly update their AI policies. AI is here to stay, and HR need to have an understanding of where their business fits with AI and how this is likely to evolve. Having a clear AI policy is essential and will help with the challenge of how to deal with the employee who is using it with great success in their role. The business may decide that this is fantastic and award big bonuses, or may feel less comfortable with the minimal employee input. It will depend on what the policy says, the AI policy, as to whether the employee is given a bonus or performance managed. My own conclusion to this issue, and for HR to consider when using AI in their own role, is that currently the work carried out by AI should be viewed as having been carried out by a junior and inexperienced staff member. It can be a good starting point, it can save initial legwork, but the flaws need to be kept in mind so that good employment practices remain. The landscape is changing at a lightning speed, and it's important for us all to keep ourselves updated. Given how quickly the technology is developing, I'm honoured to have reached the end of this 10-minute presentation without having been replaced by a robot.